Hey guys, welcome back to the Tech Check for Season 2, Episode 6. Before we begin, here's a word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. It has creation tools that allows you to create and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. Anchor also distributes your podcast for you on multiple platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money with no minimum listenership, and everything is in one place to create a podcast. Download Anchor on the App Store or Play Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today.
All right, guys, welcome back to episode 6 of the Tech Check. Today we'll be talking about some latest news from SpaceX. So, what do you guys got for us?
The biggest news we have from SpaceX at the moment is Starship. That's really the only news that we have from SpaceX right now that's actually relatively, I wouldn't say valuable, but valuable for the next couple of weeks, considering that they're going to be doing a test launch for their Starship. Um, for those who don't know, Starship is planned to be SpaceX, the SpaceX rocket that gets to Mars. So, assuming this test goes right, it should be huge for space exploration.
Yeah, to add on to that, Elon Musk even said that there's about a 1/3 chance for everything to go wrong. So technically, there's a 2/3 chance that everything goes right. If I'm thinking about that right.
I
Um,
believe you are thinking about it correct.
yes, I think that's right. I'm not sure if he said it's 1/3 chance to go right or 1/3 chance to go wrong, but point still stands. There's a decent amount of chance something will go wrong and a decent amount of chance something will go right. Hopefully, we want the test launch to go right. Basically, what they're doing is they're going to be launching Starship about 15 kilometers in the air and then supposedly having it land back down on Earth as if it's coming back from reentry. So if they can get this to work and hit down that reusability concept on Starship, it'll be massive. Because apart
Hmm.
from that, then we just need to mainly work on getting to Mars.
Yeah, and it's not like super impossible, I guess, with developments and engines and stuff like that. I think we've talked about it in like season 1, I think, a bit, but it's not like entirely impossible now to get to Mars.
Yeah, we also have to consider that we've had a bit of SpaceX has had a bit of problems with Starship in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like with SN3, they've had what was it? I forget what it was. I think they under pressure testing, something collapsed. Well, SN3 as a whole collapsed. SN4 exploded, and then SN8 which is the current model of Starship. Um, Whether it goes right or not, um, you know, there's yeah, that's why we have this test launch. That being said, there we have SN9 and SN10 already planned out. So
Yeah, I find it pretty interesting how it's supposed to launch to Mars and then come return. Because obviously, I'm not sure how long it'll take to get to Mars. Well, I'm guessing it'll take at least 1 year, at least, right? At least a year to get to Mars.
Starship isn't trying. This model of the test launch we're doing isn't supposed to get to Mars.
Oh, wait,
No,
actually?
it's only supposed to go 15 kilometers in the air, come back down and land.
Oh, wait, I thought
We're
that.
not trying. We're not trying to get to Mars yet because we don't have the resources to get to Mars yet. We need to focus on actually, landing our rockets first, so that we don't have to spend a ton of money building like tons of different rockets.
Wait, but wasn't its ultimate goal to get to Mars, though?
Yeah, that's what the
Yeah,
test was for.
the ultimate Starship eventually will get to Mars, but it's not like we can just build one rocket and everything is going to go
Oh,
well. You need to
it's just
test
like
everything first. You were cutting out.
oh, my bad. So is this just like another prototype or something? Or like,
Yeah, this is the eighth
It's still like
prototype,
test.
SN8.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
They have two more prototypes lined up with SN9 and SN10. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes some sense.
Yeah, I mean, it has. I think the SN8 is mainly supposed to test the super heavy booster,
Hmm.
which is supposed to be one of the biggest, most powerful rockets in history,
Yeah.
and seeing if that'll be able to re-land after being launched. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if they can get the rocket to actually land, that'll be very beneficial because then they don't have to worry about that at all.
exactly. And then they can mainly focus on actually getting to Mars itself.
Yeah.
Um, Supposedly the SpaceX wants to use the Super Heavy uh, first so it can better launch its Starlink, uh, which I'm gonna admit I'm not completely caught up on.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think this is if they get this to work, it's not only going to be massive for Starship itself, but it's going to be massive for SpaceX as a whole because of everything else that's going to come with it, like Starlink. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, Starlink is SpaceX essentially sending a bunch of satellites up into orbit
Aren't they
so
doing like
that
100 satellites or something?
I think it's 1,000 satellites
Thousand.
as part of Starlink. Basically, it's gonna create a constellation of satellites that SpaceX can use, which is gonna massively increase the amount of orbits we have in the Earth's atmosphere, or
Mm.
the amount of satellites we have as a whole. So, if they can get powerful rockets like this working, then I mean that'll be massive, considering that we have a super powerful rocket that can be reused multiple times. Some Forbes says that SpaceX's existing Falcon 9 can launch up to 60 Starlink satellites per flight,
Mm.
whereas Starship can launch hundreds, considering how much bigger Starship is and how much large, essentially how much better of an engine that Starship is because of its size.
Yeah, I mean that's insane getting like 100 satellites per launch and then reusing it. You're just saving so much money there.
Oh no, it's hundreds.
Yeah,
It's not even 100. It's even more than that. So
it's insane.
SN8 has had problems though. From what I can tell, apparently it has had some technical issues, especially with the landing stage, which admittedly will be hard. So yeah,
I mean, I guess it's a pretty big project. I mean, just as a whole, so there's obviously going to be a ton of like a ton of small problems in that and like the testing and whatever.
yeah. I mean, even considering those problems, it will have a massive impact on the global industry, especially considering that SpaceX is a private company. It's
Hmm.
going to be interesting to see how government agencies like NASA and other space agencies around the world will react if Starship manages to work out, and how they'll work together for other projects. What are you guys' opinions on that?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's kind of a great idea that, like, the SpaceX thing most likely will work, and that all these industries will probably have access to these technologies. And going back to the satellite idea, I know we wanted to move on, but I know that now there's some like now you can use satellite imagery to sort of detect wildfires. So I think that, like, maybe these satellites that um, that SpaceX puts out could be used for a situation like that to help save human lives, not just like
I
kind of.
mean, but on the same note of private company, it's run by a private company, which is SpaceX, obviously. So maybe I'm pretty sure they're going to somehow charge access to
Technologies.
uh, the Starlink network
Yeah,
compared to um, a government agencies, which I'm assuming their data is more. it isn't restricted by money, but rather by government, you know, walls and stuff. So
But like now that the technology is developed, I don't really see why another space company could, I wouldn't say copy it, but sort of create like a similar idea, even though it's like tons of money. Because think of it like going back to Apple, right? Like Apple created like the iPhone, and now like everyone has an iPhone. I'm kind of thinking of it like similarly like that.
but that the iPhone's been around for 20 years. This Starship is new and it's its own thing altogether.
But it could turn
And
into
it com-
the
and
iPhone.
compared to on comparing phones to rockets, the amount of resources needed for R&D and for R&D along with materials, along with everything else that comes with building a rocket, it's on astronomically different scales. So even saying that someone could copy it, despite considering the amount of resources that Elon has put into making this, making Starship and Starlink, and the new super heavy booster and all that sort of stuff, it's gonna be. I mean, I don't really see it being necessarily copied by another company or agency for a while.
I mean, it depends because if SpaceX is already, starting to develop these now, there's no saying that like the other companies won't try. So
Oh no, they'll
obviously, like they
definitely
might not.
try, but again, I don't think that the amount of risks that Elon took in order to get where he's at right now with SpaceX, I'm just not sure if other companies are going to be willing to take those same risks financially.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I agree. I agree with the financial perspective, and that's a good argument. But I think like, I mean, think about it as like history, right? I feel like history is gonna repeat itself. Like, think about it. I know Apple came out with like the Apple TV, and I think a week or 2 weeks later, Google came out with the Chromecast. And I don't think the Apple TV is now like as effective as it once was. And I think like, although it's not technically like copying, I think something similar might happen to SpaceX, where another space company might create a rocket similar to that and might use it for more profitable industries.
I mean, I only think that model would only work once space travel is commercialized.
Yeah,
Not really,
Yeah,
not
like
really
uh,
in its use
I
case.
yeah. Honestly, no one's gonna want to copy them. They may as well just buy, well, not buy rights, but buy usage for like the super heavy booster or something like that, or collaborate with SpaceX like NASA did not too long ago. So I don't see again anybody a financially taking the risk to try and make something like that, or b thinking it'd be a good market idea to get that to recreate it like Pratham said until there's commercial usage of rockets. So again, I don't really see agencies or anybody really copying that yet, and rather just working with SpaceX and doing some sort of collaboration like SpaceX and NASA have already done.
yeah, and to add, I do you guys think that there's any other industries that this rocket could impact besides just going to Mars?
um I mean, I wouldn't call going to Mars an industry, but I guess it might impact the future of commercial space travel if it ever happens, which I'm pretty sure it eventually will. That'll be one. Start the booster itself with the super heavy. It'll probably affect telecommunications somehow, considering it'll help Starlink. And then with anything else SpaceX is doing in terms of space travel or satellites or research or that sort of stuff, who knows what we can find out there using a more powerful booster or a more powerful engine. And based on what we find, the different areas or different industries might be affected. Like if we find, I don't know, say a comet with new stuff on it, or like new a geological material, right? Then that'll affect the geological industry. But we don't know what we're going to find out there. So far, there's only a couple industries that you can say for certain will probably get affected. Um, Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's really limited and to like what industries, like you said, which are certain. But I think
I mean, but that's the nature of aerospace as a whole. It's not like it's not like astrospace and astrospace engineering have really much of an effect on anything outside of stuff that goes on in space, which in turn don't really affect much that's going on Earth itself. So I guess it's not really much to be surprised if there's no like massive daily impact that comes out of this, at least immediately. So
yeah, there I don't really anticipate any massive daily impact really at all, unless if they get to Mars and we can start a colony, which we already talked about earlier. Like a
yeah, I think we've covered that in a earlier episode, but
Yeah.
getting to Mars and setting up a colony there are two completely different monsters. I think I've said this before, but it's going to be getting to the point where we get to Mars, the point where we set a colony on Mars is going to happen in two different decades. There's going to be quite a bit of time in between. So
until at that point, like, you know, I don't know, the world will be so different at that point when we even come to that
yeah,
stage.
that's true. Considering over the past decade how much the world has changed technologically, we never know what it's going to end up like in another 10 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, um, it's going to be interesting to see how SpaceX and all their stuff has an impact on that. Uh, anything else from you guys?
I got nothing.
No, not really.
All right. Well, I guess that's it from us. If you guys want to leave a comment on anything that we left out about SpaceX as a whole and their potential impact on the future, please be sure to let us know, whether it be on YouTube or through, social media or whatever it may be. But again, that's it from us. Thanks for listening and stay safe.